And now it is time to introduce our first speaker of the day. She is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Chemical and Biological Defense. Among her many responsibilities, she executes the day-to-day management, governance, and resourcing of the Chemical and Biological Defense Program. Her background stems in both industry and government work. In industry, her positions included Senior Scientist, Manager of Analytic Services, and Director of Laboratories. In the government, she is a graduate of the DTRA-CB Preparatory School of Leadership. Do not go looking that up, I just made it up. Dr. Vann truly is one of us in the truest sense of the word, having been a science and technology manager, a branch chief, and a division chief at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. She's been an executive fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and earned her Ph.D. in chemistry from USC, the University of South Carolina. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Brandi Vann.
That was nice. So thank you, Carl, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Carl mentioned, I'm Dr. Brandi Vann, and I am the new head of the Chemical and Biological Defense Program. First, I'd like to say thank you to Ron and his team and the conference organizers for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. This is great. You know, I have a very long-standing history with this conference, as Carl mentioned. Actually started as a contract support to this conference, and then I went to a presenter, and then I hosted sessions, and then I got to be on the panel last year, and now I get to sit here in front of all of you as the DASD. So, but what I know about this conference firsthand is that there are great ideas that are generated here every single conference. And I'm actually very excited to see what are the outcomes going to come out of this meeting. So, like many of you in the audience who have worked with the Chem-Bio Defense Program for a long time, I'm aware that in many ways, I don't really fit the mold of my predecessors. But that's okay. And I am looking forward to breaking many more molds in the name of progress for the CBDP. Progress for the sake of protecting our warfighters, progress for the sake of safeguarding our national security, and progress that's going to drive the Chem-Bio Defense Program forward into a capability revolution. So don't get me wrong though, for 26 years, the Chem-Bio Defense Program has successfully developed and delivered what the warfighters needed to conquer the hazards on the battlefield. But many of you know that the pace of technology continues to move faster and faster. And as a result, the players on the world stage are shifting and the conflict landscape is changing, becoming more complex, as are the hazards that we face. They are non-traditional, they're asymmetric, and they're more complex than what we've ever seen since the start of the Chem-Bio Defense Program. So as a result, my goal is to fundamentally change how we operate if we expect our soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marine to be able to respond to tomorrow's threats on a complex CBRN battlefield. So overcoming these global power changes and the emergence and reemergence of these complex threats thus requires a new strategy, a renewed focus, and a shift in priorities. This transformation is absolutely necessary to ensure that the joint force can fight and win in a CBRN contested environment, so that they can prepare for surprise from emerging threats and ultimately reduce the risk that they pose. So as the Department of Defense, we will of course always align to national strategies, to departmental priorities, but the way that we do that might not always be binary. So what I mean by this is when the National Defense Strategy calls for rebuilding military readiness and build a more lethal joint force, it means something completely different to us in the Chem-Bio Defense Program as it does to the rest of the Department of Defense. So for us, it's not about rebuilding military might, but instead re-looking at how we build capabilities, and those capabilities that enable the warfighters to continue their mission in a CBRN environment. So to the Chem-Bio Defense Program, terms like rebuilding readiness or ensuring lethality mean ensuring that our joint force can continue to fight and can remain a lethal force when they encounter a threat. So what that means is our soldiers need uniforms with nanotechnology that is embedded and can automatically alter the fabric physical properties to protect them in any environment that they encounter. That our sailors need battleships with coatings that can be sheared off after exposure, thus eliminating the need for decontamination. Our airmen need a heads-up display with augmented reality that can show them what the hazards lie between them and their objective. And our Marines, they need the ability to rapidly recognize a novel agent on the battlefield and understand what the operational impacts are for them. So this isn't science fiction, right? This is the kind of revolutionary capability that our warfighters really need. So again, as Carl mentioned, I've been on the other side of this podium, so I get it, that trying to find these answers can be challenging. But I absolutely believe, having been on the other side of this podium, that the smart folks in this room have ideas that could turn those concepts into a reality. But if we don't take that action now, then we won't see that reality in the future. And the men and women in uniform who we serve need us to rise to that challenge that is already beating down our front door. So as I work in my position to reform our strategies, our policies, and our practices, we have 4 organizations that make up the Chem-Bio Defense Program that will continue to improve the alignment of their efforts from one end of the enterprise to the other. We have the Joint Requirements Office, the Joint Science Technology Office, the Joint Program Executive Office, and the CBRN Test and Evaluation Executive. And they all play a critical role, and each one is essential to the success of the others. For the whole Chem-Bio defense enterprise to be successful, no single organization can operate out of step with the others, or each will flounder and fail. And ultimately, it's the warfighter that loses. But as an enterprise, we recognize that we cannot do this alone. The cohesion and coordination and integration amongst the Chem-Bio Defense Program and amongst our strategic partners and performers are absolutely required for our collective success. The strength of those relationships, the bonds and the bridges between our organizations are the structure with which we will build our warfighters' ability to continue winning in a world of complex threats. Now, I consider all of you in the audience today members of our greater Chem-Bio defense community, and we need your help to make a huge leap towards revolutionary ideas and real-world solutions. So I will say, if you have a crazy idea that might not work, but you think it's worth a shot, go talk to Ron and his team of division chiefs and STEMs. If you've got something that's already developed that you think could be useful to our warfighters, I would encourage you to go talk to the JPO, to Doug Bryce and to Jason Roos, and show them what you've got. As I said, we are all part of the same team, and working together is the only way that we'll be able to be behind the warfighter, but ahead of the threat. Thank you.